All right, number 12. We want to perform the first derivative test. So we got a little bit of a review. We're going to locate critical points, use that to locate the maximum and minimum values, and then find the absolute maximum and minimum. All right, we're given f of x is equal to x times the square root of 9 minus x squared. We are evaluating from -3 to 3. As I do the derivative, keeping in mind we're doing product rule, I'm going to think of this square root as 9 minus x squared raised to the 1/2 power. And we'll do product rule. So product rule is the first times the derivative of the second. So we're doing power and chain rule. So multiply the 1/2. Sorry, the first, I put a 1. This is the first function is x. First times the derivative of the second. Leave the inside alone. Subtract 1, so -1/2. And then times the derivative of the inside. So derivative of 9 is 0. Derivative of -2x. Sorry, -x squared is going to be a -2x. This is all being multiplied. All right, so first derivative of the second plus the second, which is going to be the square root, times the derivative of the first. Derivative of x is 1, so this is all we have. All right, so we're going to simplify. We will multiply x. X gives us x squared. Divide out the 2 from the bottom. And then the negative square root, I'm going to move it to the bottom. So we will still have a fraction. It'll be negative because of that negative. X squared will be on the top. The 2 that was being multiplied is getting divided out by that 2. This is moving to the bottom and it's still square root. Okay, so this is the first part plus the second part. All right, so here's our derivative. We're going to set it equal to 0. To simplify a little bit, I'm going to multiply by the denominator to get rid of that. What happens, you multiply times 0, you still get 0. Multiply square root of 9 minus x squared times this fraction, it cancels out on the bottom. And then multiply it times here, it gets rid of the square root, it becomes squared. And we end up with -x squared. And that'll be plus 9 minus x squared. And so, combining like terms, 0 equals -2x squared plus 9. And it doesn't look like this will factor, so we will subtract 9. Divide by -2. And that will give me 9 over 2 equals x squared. And then we would take the square root of both sides, which will give me a positive or negative. And we can say positive or negative 3 square roots of 2. All right, so these will be our 2 critical values. On a number line, we will try to decide increasing, decreasing intervals, and then maximum and minimums. So we'll have a -3 over square root of 2. We'll have a +3 over the square root of 2. I do know square root of 2 is 1 point something. So we can just say a -2.5 that we can use to test here. In between these, we can say 0. And then over here, I'll just say a +2.5. Okay, so just trying to pick something in between. I probably could use -2 as a whole number, but let's look at these numbers and verify. If we do 3 divided by square root of 2, yeah, it's a little bit bigger than 2, so we can't quite use 2. So 2.5 is going to will be the best that we can use. All right, so starting from here, we can just test these test points. If we were to plug in a -2.5, we can even, I don't want to round it up to 3 because that would be too much. So let's say 2.5 squared, it will be positive, but times 2 will be negative. Should be, I want to say 6.25. 2.5 squared, 6.25. And we multiply that times 2, and it gives us 12. Okay, so plugging in 2.5 for x here, we get a positive. It comes back negative, so I got a -12 plus 9. It's going to still give me a negative. So in this section, it is negative. And then between these two, we're going to plug in a 0. So if I plug in 0 here, this whole term 0 out, and we're just left with a +9. So this section is positive. And then since I picked the same number, 2.5, positive, it'll go negative, and then -12 plus 9 will still be negative. So it looks like we go decreasing, increasing, so we have like a minimum, and then from increasing to decreasing. So we're going from increasing to decreasing. This will be a maximum value. We're going to find those values and then the actual maximum and min of the problem. So critical values, we have 3 divided by square root of 2. And then we have -3 divided by square root 2. All right, the next part, it says to locate the local maximum value and select it. So there is a local maximum when x is equal to. So the maximum happened at the +3 over square root of 2. All right, it's good. And then it says locate the minimum value. So there's a local minimum. So it went from decreasing to increasing at the -3 over square root of 2. All right, so we're going to identify the absolute maximum and minimum value of the function. And so in order to do that, we will just plug in these values. I'll do a couple by hand. We want to find the absolute maximum. So either I'm going to test this point and I'll test the endpoints and find out what's the highest value. So going to our original function, f 3 over square root of 2 That will give us 3 over square root of 2 times the square root of 9 minus, this will be 3 over square root of 2 squared. All right, so what happens? We will have, when we square this, we'll get 9 over 2 because at the bottom will get squared. And so we have 3 square root of 2, and then we have 9 minus 9 over 2. Common denominator, I can put this over 1. And then this will be 18 over 2. So if I subtract 18, 18 take away 9, that will still leave us with 9 over 2. So I have 3 over the square root of 2, which I can't see that, times 9 over the square root of 2. And then this is the same thing. So if you do square root of 9, you get 3. This is not a square root of 2 yet. It's just over 2 under that square root. So we end up with 3 over the square root of 2 squared. And that gives us 3 squared is 9 over 2. 3 squared is 9. Square root of 2 squared is 2. All right, so we get 9 over 2 as the value here. If we were to plug in the -3 and 3, we would get 0, because when you do -3, when you square it, it becomes positive, but 9 minus 9 gives me 0. Whole thing zeroes out. Same thing here. So 9 over 2 is going to be our maximum value. So the absolute maximum value is 9 over 2. And then identify the absolute minimum value. So minimum value, similar, we're going to be doing the same thing. So I could plug in -3 over square root of 2. Since it's the same value, we're going to end up with the same thing. The -3 over square root of 2 on the outside. And then if we went through this whole process, we have a 9 minus, and be a negative square root of 3 over 2. The only difference is, since this is negative, when I multiply the result, it'll be negative. So we will get a -9 over 2 as our minimum value.